So following up from yesterday's number talk, where we were multiplying some fractions or mixed numbers, I thought today we'd try and put that on the generic rectangle and kind of see what it looks like visually. And so I think let's try 1.5 times 2.5. Because sometimes we have some common mistakes that students make. You know, they go 1 times 2 is 2, and a half times a half is a fourth, so the answer is 2.5. So looking at it on the rectangle here, I think that'll help us out a little bit. So if I put the 2 here, and it's not perfectly to scale, so here's my length is 2, and here's the 1/2, so this is 2.5. And then the height, this would be 1. And then here's my 1/2 over here. So this would all be, this height in total would be 1.5. Excuse me. So when we find the area of the entire rectangle, we will have multiplied 1.5 times 2.5. So let's just start in here. Here's our rectangle. The length is 2 and the height is 1. So I have 2 times 1 is 2. And here the length is 1/2. And the height is 1. So I have 1 times 1/2. So if I only have 1/2, that's going to be a half. And then here the length is still 2 and the height is 1/2. So I have 1/2 of 2, which is going to be 1. And then here I have 1/2 is the length and 1/2 is the width. So I have 1/2 times 1/2, which is going to be 1/4. Okay. Then if we add all these up, we should be able to find out what 1.5 times 2.5 is. So we can start off, I have 2 plus 1 plus 1/2 plus 1/4. So starting with the whole numbers, we have 3. Then I have to add 1/2 and 1/4. So we're going to use the giant 1 and make this into fourths. So if I need fourths. 2 times 2 is going to be 4. And this has to be a 1. Remember, we can't change the value of the fraction itself. So if I multiply by 1, I haven't changed the value. So 1 times 2 is 2. So now I have 2/4 plus 1/4 is going to be 3/4. And there's my answer. 3 3/4. So by using the area model generic rectangle, this can help us get all the parts that we need to actually multiply the 1.5 times 2.5. Of course, the alternative method would be to take the 1.5, let's test it out and see if we're right, times 2.5. So I can make an improper fraction here. So that'd be 1 times 2 is 2 plus 1 is 3. So I have 3/2 times 2 times 2 is 4 and 1 is 5 times 5/2. And there's nothing I can cross cancel here. So I'm going to multiply across the top. I have 15 and 2 times 2 is 4. So 15/4. So that's 15. Remember, your fraction bar means divide. We're lazy. We used to have the dots here, but now we don't put them on there. So I have 15 divided by 4. 3 times 4 is 12. And I have 3 left over, so this is 3/1/4. So I get 3 1/4. And look, we got the same answer. Okay, so there's 2 methods. This is more visual and always good, to use if you want to check an answer.